I'm Joy Bishop from Sleep East, which is a community interest company. We're a social enterprise. We actually specialise in sleep counselling for children, but sleep is the same for everybody. So what I'm going to do is introduce myself a little bit more. We'll look at a sleep hypnogram, which explains what happens through the sleep stages. We'll look at the hormones involved in sleep. Then we'll look at sleep hygiene, which is everything that affects sleep, which is everything you do in your life. We'll have a quick look at sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, when to talk to a GP, painsomnia, insomnia, and I've got questions. I've got questions at the end, but ask questions all the way through, because if you're anything like me, you'll think of a question and think, oh, I've got to wait till the end, and then you'll have forgotten it. And the other thing that really helps is if you kind of chip in at any time and say, well, I tried this, that really worked, or I tried that and it didn't work, but I adapted it, because your experience is going to be so useful for other people. And if at the end of the session you're all happy to do it, we'll go through a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. So back to the beginning. As I said, I'm Joy Bishop, sleep counsellor for Sleep East. I used to work for Norfolk and Norwich Scope. I worked for them for 16 years and ran their sleep clinic for 10 years before being made redundant, which was the reason I set up Sleep East, because working with families who had children with cerebral palsy, if they sleep, the whole family sleeps. So I was trained by Sleep Scotland. They use the health specialist from Southampton University Hospital Sleep Clinic and Edinburgh Sleep Clinic to train us. And we've also got Sleep Scotland almost behind our shoulders in case we get any sleep problems that we're not too sure the way forward. So we can always go to them for extra advice. So Sleep East has been going for about 10 years. There are two of us. Marion, my colleague, is an early years specialist. She also worked for a local charity working with children with disabilities. And then I was saying earlier, she went to Malawi in Africa for 2 years to set up a children's centre, came back and then worked with me. So if you've got family, if you've got children who don't sleep, make the most of having me here as well, and don't just worry about asking for yourselves. Ask for your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, if they're not sleepers as well, because I might be able to give you some pointers on that. What we're going to start off looking at is a sleep hypnogram. Forgive me for holding up bits of paper, but it's the easiest way for me to do it. Now, the sleep hypnogram shows the stages of sleep that we experience through the night. Before I came as sleep counsellor, I thought that if you were lucky, you fell into a pit of sleep, a wonderful deep pit of sleep. You dived down at the beginning of night, wallowed in wonderful sleep, and in the morning you came out. But it isn't like that at all. We have sleep cycles. Down the side, it shows 4 sleep cycles. We actually think there are only 3 sleep cycles now. And through the night, we go in and out of sleep. Adults sleep in about 80 to 90 minute sleep cycles. Children up to the age of about 11, when teenage hormones kick in, they sleep in about a 60-minute sleep cycle. So an adult sleep cycle, ideally you will fall quickly to sleep in about, we're aiming for 10-15 minutes, but we'll get to that later on. And as you see, you go down into a deep sleep, and then for an adult, about 80 to 90 minutes, you come up towards wakening. children under the age of 11, it's about a 60-minute cycle. You then go down again. The first part of the night, you go into a very deep sleep. And that is an effect where your body is paralyzed. The auditory, the erectile, the respiratory systems are still working, but your body is physically almost paralyzed, because this deep sleep here is where you'll experience body repair. When you're not well, quite often the first thing you want to do is just go to bed and relax and go to sleep. And that's because your body knows it needs this deep sleep for repair. The autoimmune system is rebooted in deep sleep. Growth hormone is released in deep sleep. And growth hormone, whilst you think of being particularly important for children, we experience it throughout our lives, and it's what helps repair our body and our cells. A little bit slower as you get older, but this part of sleep I always refer to as body repair here. The second part of night, you're still sleeping in cycles. The second part of the night, you don't go down into such a deep sleep, but you have more Rem sleep, which is indicated by the red sections here. You get a little bit at the first part of the night, but more in the second part of the night. And Rem sleep is brain restoration, if you will. It's where you process what has gone on the day before. You know, the wise wife tale is, oh, you've got a problem, I'll sleep on it. Well, that's actually because your brain is working through your worries, your anxieties. You process what's going on during the day before in REM sleep. And in REM sleep, short-term memory is laid down to long-term memory, and pronunciation is laid down as well. So you need, hopefully, the whole 6 to 8 hours of sleep to get the full cycle of sleep. Now, I say 6 to 8 hours because most people nowadays will say, how much do you think we should be sleeping? And you sort of say 6 to 8 hours. But if you were to ask me this in the 1950s, I'd say 10 hours. And that's because TV has got in the way and keeps us up maybe longer than we should do. And what my colleague Marion found in Malawi was, because the electricity tended to go off about 8 o'clock at night, people would just go to bed and would sleep longer. And she said in Malawi, most people were sleeping 9 to 10 hours because they weren't distracted by the television and computer games and other things. So ideally, you need the whole sleep cycle. One thing I point out to parents, that especially if you've got a child with autism, is, and this I find relates really well to new parents. If you fall asleep here and you are going down into a deep sleep, and then 80 to 90 minutes later or whatever time, you wake up because you're in discomfort or your child has cried out. If you then wake up for more than, this is an estimate, I'd say more than half an hour to 30 minutes. When you go back to sleep again, you don't continue at the point at which you woke up. Say you woke up here, you don't continue there, you go back here. And so and I remember this very well when I've got twin boys who are 34 now, but when they were little, I was woken up sometimes every 45 minutes. And I'd wake up and I'd be awake for a long time. And then when I go back to sleep again, I'd start here. And quite often I would spend the whole night in this cycle because I was woken up, going back, woken up, going back. So that when I was disturbed, I was coming out of a really, really deep pit of sleep, which was really hard work. And also I felt as though my brain had gone to mush because I couldn't remember anything. And that was because I wasn't having this end cycle of sleep here with the REM sleep to process memories. I'm having a little bit, but not enough. So when I discovered that, it kind of made sense of why I got such brain fog, because I was only having that little bit of sleep. And Karen, you were saying you'd only slept 4.5 hours, was it?
Yes, I mean, that's the reason I'm here, really, because for decades, let's say, I've only slept like 4.5 hours. If I get 4 to 4.5 maximum, then I wake up. Sometimes I might need to go to the loo. Sometimes I don't, but if I have to, I will get myself out of bed just in case. Get back in again, and may or may not go back to sleep. If I don't go back to sleep, although I'm exhausted, at the very least, I don't have the brain fog that I do have, which is what you're talking about. Now I understand where it's coming from. That if I do go back to sleep again, I might get an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if I go back to sleep again. And it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, I could go to bed at 9 and wake up at whatever that would be, 1:30, or I can go to bed at 1 and wake up at 4 or 5 or something. So there's no regularity to my patterns, because sometimes and then, sorry, the bit I didn't put in there, if I fall asleep in the daytime, which could be any time from morning through to afternoon, through to evening, because I'm so whacked, then I'm not ready to go to sleep. I'm sort of, when it's time to go to bed, I'm like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just don't know what to do about it. So.
Okay. I'll just make a note, and at the end, we'll talk about light and dark and routine for you. And at the end, I'm just going to make a note, but remind me if I forget. I'll talk about sleep restriction.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I can't do anything about the sleep in the daytime because I don't know it's going to happen.
Okay. It's when you sit down, I assume.
Yeah, when I sit down and when I'm not doing anything, or if I sort of say watch something like a video that I need to watch as part of a course I'm doing or whatever, I'll just fall asleep.
Yeah. No, that does sound. It's a difficult one, because I really do believe that naps are so important. You're not going to manage without a nap. And what we'll do is we'll talk about all the things in sleep hygiene that will help little by little. But what you find is that it will be all sorts of little things that you might need to tweak. And because you've said you've not slept for decades, that's going to take a long time to turn around.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And just one other thing then, and then I'll be quiet. But
no, that's fine.
if I wake up, if I fall asleep in the daytime, it's particularly sort of like late afternoon, I think this is worse. When I wake up, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know nothing. It's just sort of, it's completely disorientating.
I mean, that might be. Is that on a regular basis? Every time?
No, I don't. Well, I don't sleep regularly like that every day. But when I do, that's what happens. And I might have been asleep then for 2 hours, and I won't even know what time I fell asleep. And I can look at the time I woke up, but I can't tell you what time I fell asleep because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think what happens is when you fall asleep, is if you go back here, sleep level 1 is a really kind of interesting state to be. It's that sort of state where you're sort of maybe sitting there thinking, or even in my case, when I go to bed, I lie there and I'm thinking things through. I'm thinking really sensible thoughts. And then all of a sudden something pops into my head and I think, well, that was a load of rubbish. Where was that from? And that's sleep level 1. when you're drifting in and out of consciousness, where the sleep thoughts intrude, your body isn't completely asleep, but your brain is heading that way. So sometimes it can be really hard to realize you've fallen asleep. My husband, who's there, he says he will not be aware that he's been asleep, but I know he has because I've heard his breathing change. So it's that it looks as though you fall off a cliff and drop down into sleep, but sometimes that little section there to level 1 can take some time where you can come up and out of it, because you're drifting in between consciousness state, but you're resting, which is the most important thing. And I think what we'll do is, as we go through, when we get to the end, we'll talk about it a bit more, because if I talk about it now, the things that I will be suggesting will come up anyway.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Can I ask a question?
Mm.
I'm going to make everyone jealous, but actually I'm at the other end of the scale. So I quite often sleep like 12, 13 hours, which is kind of frustrating on the opposite end of the scale, because I often then need like a 2-hour nap in the day. I'm like a mega sleeper, which leaves very little time for anything else. I would love to sleep less. Also, like just waking up really dehydrated because I've gone a long time without, having eaten or drunk anything. Does everything kind of stretch out, or do I just spend a lot more time in that end, in the kind of end section, if that makes sense?
I see what you mean. I think what you do is you will come round again, because I think what's maybe happening is when you're waking up, you're in a deep sleep, and you're just setting the cycle again. I'm assuming that if you don't use an alarm clock to wake you up, why not? I'm just thinking.
Well, I don't need to. Like, I don't have that structure in my day, and because I'm incredibly tired.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It was sort of, so you need it. Your body needs it, and I think what it sounds like is that your body is spending longer. This is an average, an absolute average. I think your body is spending longer in here because it needs it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the only sort of analogy I can maybe think of is when my twins were little, I could have actually slept for England. We used to have my friends and I used to have this fantasy of going away to a hotel and just sleeping for 24 hours because our body needed it. And sleep is so important, as we've seen from this, for body repair and mental acuity, that I would always go by what your body needs. If you're waking up feeling groggy, then maybe I would experiment with setting the alarm clock in, say, maybe half an hour before or something, to try and so that you're waking up in this section and not that section. Sometimes that, because if you're hauled out there, and I think the thing goes for naps as well. If you're going for a nap, you want to either have like a half an hour nap, which would probably bring you to about here, or the full sleep cycle of 80 to 90 minutes, so that you're waking up at these points. Because quite often you come out of a nap down here, and that's a real haul to wake yourself up from that. So experiment with an alarm clock for you, Ellie, waking up in the morning, and maybe Karen's naps, because if she's having 2 hours, that's sort of like 1.5 sleep cycles. So I try and have either a 30-minute or an 90-minute sleep cycle nap, because then you're fitting into your sleep cycle. So that's the hypnogram. The one thing as well about the sleep hypnogram that can be really useful is this bit here where you fall asleep. When you fall asleep there's something called the sleep onset association. And I always make the same analogy. My sleep association is my pillow. When I go to bed at night, I stick my head on my pillow and I think, I love going to sleep. Oh, I love it. And I fall asleep here. Now, if I was to come up towards wakening, as we all do, about 80 to 90 minutes, the idea is that we come up towards wakening and we turn over and we go back to sleep again. This is really important if you've got anybody with children, to help them self-settle. If they come up towards sleeping here and my pillow has been nicked, I'm not going to turn over and just go to sleep again. I need my pillow to go to sleep. And you need to think about how you go to sleep, what helps you go to sleep, because that sleep association, once you get it sorted, should help for when you wake up and go to sleep again. And for any of you who've got children who don't sleep through the night or can't settle, it's quite often it's because it's the parents who are the pillow. You'll find children will go to sleep being cuddled by mum or dad, or mum and dad will be there. And then when they wake up, come towards wakening every 60 minutes, if mum and dad aren't there, that's how they went to sleep. So think about the situation where you fell asleep here, because that will become your sleep association for when you wake up in the night. And ideally, it's going to be the same and simple. So you look at the 5 senses, hearing, sound. Oh, help me out here. What are they? Hearing, sound, smell, taste, and what you can touch. So here, ideally, is going to be the same all the way through. It kind of does help, is more important for helping children to self-settle, but it's something that we can use ourselves. So when you go to sleep at night, I'm going to come on to that because that comes on to sleep hormone, sleep hygiene. We'll look at it in much greater detail then. Before we get to it, have we got any questions? Okay, we'll do sleep hormone, the hormones involved in sleep next, because they help you think about your sleep associations. Mainly 2 hormones involved in sleep. There's a third one that I'll talk about in a minute, serotonin, but the 2 that are most important are melatonin, which used to be called the hormone of darkness because it's released by the absence of blue light. This one I can't do, I have to look at it. So when the light levels go down, you know what it's like in winter, at 4 o'clock, the light levels go down. You think if somebody to put a duvet over me, I'd be asleep in 5 minutes. And that's because the absence of blue light is telling your brain it's actually nighttime, even though it may be 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's time to go to sleep. So melatonin is released by the pineal gland, and melatonin helps you go to sleep. It doesn't keep you asleep, but it helps you go to sleep. So a lot of families ask about buying melatonin on the internet, and we don't give advice on that because it's medical advice. But a lot of the children we work with are prescribed melatonin, and they have slow release melatonin because it helps throughout the night. It's one of those hormones that helps you go to sleep, but doesn't keep you asleep. So the important thing is realizing that it is released by the absence of blue light. And that's why there's all the advice about not watching screens, turning off your TV before you go to bed, because usually they're lit by blue light. You can adapt them so that they aren't blue, but I find that when you're watching the TV, it depends what you're watching. I mean, for example, I got into Game of Thrones, and then it was so horrible and so gory that I couldn't sleep because my brain was completely jumbled up by it. Even if I turned it off an hour before, it was still jiggling around in my brain. You need that wind down time. But going back to melatonin, melatonin is released by the absence of blue light. So in the summer, you might want to think about drawing the curtains a bit sooner, because at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, it can still be light and you're not getting the signals to your brain that the light levels are going and it's time to go to sleep. In the winter, because we don't live on the equator, you need to cheat and put the lights on. And if I do a workshop in a school, I always say after lunch, make sure all the lights are on in the winter, especially, because otherwise your children are going to have that dip and it's going to be so hard for them. But if the lights are on and it's bright, it's still extending the day. We have to try and cheat to get the daylight the same length throughout the year. And while I'm thinking about the daylight as well, so often we do all the wonderful things about turning the light levels down, getting tired, ready to go to bed, and then you go in the bathroom, and the bathrooms are usually really brightly lit with a light over the mirror. And that can just say to your brain, oh, it's really bright and light, it must be time to wake up. So go into your bathrooms and check what your light levels are, because when you go on to go to bed, you want all the light levels to be dimmed and low. The other hormone that's really important for sleep is cortisol. Cortisol is indicated by the black line. And cortisol is released in the morning when the blue light of dawn is on the blue spectrum. So when dawn comes along, cortisol is released because it's the hormone that says to our bodies, it's time to get up and go, you've got to be prepared. Cortisol suppresses melatonin, but cortisol is also released by anxiety and worry. So what happens for a lot of people, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, is you go to bed, you fall asleep because you're exhausted, and then your sleep cycle comes around 80 to 90 minutes. And on one of those, you will wake up and immediately you will start worrying. And because you're worrying, you release cortisol, and cortisol suppresses melatonin. So worry is a huge barrier to sleep. And if you can work out ways of distracting your brain so that you don't worry, that's a really, really good tip for helping you to go to sleep. One of the things that we're going to do at the end of the workshop is the progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and that's really good for managing worry, stress and anxiety. And we'll discuss other things as we go along. So the one thing to think about with the sleep hormones is using dark and light as a tool. Our body has a body clock, the circadian rhythm, and it's set every day by the blue light of dawn and outside light. It also releases into our body serotonin, which is called sometimes the hormone of happiness, because it makes you feel good. If you go outside, you get serotonin, and it makes you feel better, more alert, brighter. And you need serotonin to help your body produce melatonin. Serotonin is the hormone of day, and melatonin is the night hormone, and you need both of them. So daylight during the day sets your body clock, and every day our body clock has to be reset. Every living thing has a circadian rhythm. The cells in our guts have a circadian rhythm. Plants have, animals, anything that is alive has a circadian rhythm. And we can help it by routine. Routine puts in markers of what the time of day it is. So if you can get up at the same time and go to bed at the same time during the week, that all helps put little time markers into your body clock. Routine for meal times as well is particularly important for children. Routine is really important for them, but for our body clock, it's also very important. Any questions? How are we doing? Okay. The next bit is.
Could I just ask one quick question? Is a Kindle okay to read if I have a book on a Kindle, or is that blue light or not? So I've got a paper white one.
I think it depends on how bright they are. It's one of those things where, I mean, I think reading is brilliant before you go to bed. The library have got a project that have got it right. It's bath, book, bed. I just checked to see how bright it was.
I mean, I don't think it's being paper white. It isn't bright, so it may be.
Oh, it's like a paper. I must admit.
Yeah, like a book.
I don't have a Kindle, so it's like a paperback. Yeah, that sounds okay. And if it helps relax you, then yeah, that sounds good.
Thanks.
Don't do what I do, which is I got into, I can't remember, a detective novel, and I just, I just have to, I want to read and keep reading and reading.
And I would like to know, is there any way that or is there a particular test I could ask for so that I can find what my hormone levels are at what time of day? Because I think it's somehow related to my hormones being upside down.
I must admit, I don't know.
Okay.
I'd ask the GP for that.
Yeah, right, okay.
I can speak to this a little bit. I've had these testings. So cortisol can be tested. It's often done via your spit, actually.
Oh yeah, spit, did you say?
Yeah. Some hormones can be done via your wee, so sometimes they will like measure it that way. But and sometimes it's like a set of blood tests, so it depends which one you want to check. But yeah, like best to talk to your GP, and who you like, which hormone you want to check. It depends on which specialist you see as well. Not like for my sleep disorders, I actually see 3 different clinics for my 3 different disorders. It's not all one clinic, bizarrely. So it's not a kind of necessarily an easy path, if that makes sense.
Okay, I might talk to you about that later then, rather than taking on. Thank you. All right, thanks.
I'm just curious about your 3 sleep clinics. Do they share information between one and the other, do you think, or is it because it's
no, they're all 3 are different hospitals. So I'm at a sleep clinic at Guy's, a neurology clinic at another one, and a chronic fatigue clinic for my, I wake every half an hour sometimes. So that's related to my chronic fatigue at another one. So, and they don't talk to each other at all.
Yeah, that's something that we hear such a lot, isn't it? It's, yeah. So you wake every half an hour. No wonder you need to sleep, because you're really coming in.
Yeah, that's quite new. So I slept the longer time before I developed this new, and it came on. I started to wake every couple of hours, and then it was every hour, then it was every half an hour. So that's super annoying. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, no.
So I actually take melatonin now as well, yeah.
And that helps?
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah. It's yeah, that's, let's see if we can find some things to think about that will help. Sleep hygiene, looking at sleep hygiene, this is everything that affects your sleep. So everything you do during the day will affect your sleep. I mean, if you look at exercise is really important, especially if you can get outside, or even just if you're lucky enough to have a garden or a window that you can open up so that you're getting daylight and sunlight onto yourself. Daily exercise is really important. You think about what time you're going to be doing your exercise. If you can, you do it in the morning so that you get the full spectrum, the blue light spectrum, when it's strongest in the morning. So you're getting that message to your brain that it's morning and it's not the afternoon. If it makes sense, morning is the start of your day. So you're putting a marker in your body clock. If you exercise too late in the evening, exercise releases serotonin. It's good to have because it aids the release of melatonin, but it can kind of bump you up too much. If you exercise too close to bed, you've got the endorphins released and serotonin, and you need to come down from that. So daily exercise is brilliant, but not too close to bedtime, except if you're doing yoga nidra or yoga sleep. And I know that Ellie's got some, I had a look at her website, I know she's got some yoga nidra exercises up on the website, and they are absolutely superb because they are all aimed at relaxing your body and relaxing your brain ready for sleep. Because to go to sleep, it sounds a bit silly. You have to be tired physically and mentally. And one of the things I say to the parents I work with, one of the reasons they find it difficult, I think, for children in particular, and maybe some of us are experiencing it, is to go to sleep, is that during the day, there's always something going on. You can entertain yourselves endlessly nowadays with computer games, Facebook. There's always something that you can distract yourself with. At night time, and an awful lot of the children that I work with seem to spend an inordinate amount of time on the sofa plugged into computer games, so that when they go to bed, they haven't been outside, they aren't physically tired, and mentally they're overstimulated. And when they go to bed, I say to the parents, you're with them during the day, lots of love, lots of stimulation. They're not bored. When you go to bed at night time, we're saying, off you go, on your own, in the dark, be bored and get on with it. And I think a lot of children, a lot of teenagers and a lot of adults don't know how to lie there and do nothing and be bored. And the yoga nidra really helps you with that, because it takes you through a guided, it's what we're going to do at the end. Quite often it's a progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and it guides your body to release tension, and it guides your brain to wind down, so that you don't get those intrusive thoughts in of, I should be doing, I didn't, what have I? And if you think about when we looked at the sleep hypnogram, we had the sleep association. Sometimes, quite often in fact, I recommend having a sleep association, which is a relaxation tape. There are masses out there. BBC Sounds do some brilliant ones. There's Calm, Headspace, well-being tapes, guided sleep tapes. That could be your sleep association. And for some families, some children, what I say is play the relaxation tape, learn how to listen to it and go through the progressive muscle relaxation so you know what to do. Then you play it to go to sleep. If you're waking, maybe it might be, say, like in Ellie's case, every half an hour. What might help is, as you're coming up towards wakening, you have that tape playing throughout the night, very, very quietly. If it's loud, you don't have to listen to it. You can think of other things. But if it's very, very quiet, you have to concentrate to listen. Concentration is really tiring. And sometimes it works so that we come up towards sleep wakening, and our brain clicks into that relaxation tape, and it thinks, this is my sleep association, I can go back in again. So that is something that we find works really well, having a sleep app playing throughout the night very, very quietly. That's definitely worth thinking about. Temperature, in order to go to sleep, our body temperature actually has to drop. This is why baths are so good, because you have a bath, you get warmed up, it's nice and relaxing. A bit of lavender oil can be nice in the bath. Don't use spike lavender, because that can, if you're epileptic, it can trigger a fit. So check which essential oil you're using and don't use spike lavender. That can be really nice and relaxing. You come out of the bath and your temperature level drops, and that's a signal again to the brain that actually you're ready for bed. The bedroom, we're looking at a temperature of between 16 and 18 degrees. So my bedroom, ideally I would have at 12. I like a cold bedroom, and I get underneath the duvet and it's warm and snuggle in the bed, but cooler outside. Thinking of the bed, quite often we forget how long we've had our mattresses. Nowadays there are so many mattresses. Mattress and pillows are really important, so check those. And also we used to do, I just suddenly reminded me, we used to do a sleep quiz. Oh, I wonder if I can remember it. It's like, yeah, in 3 years, the weight of a 10-ounce pillow will double because of the weight of dead house mites and bed bugs in it. So, yeah, so have a, your bed, your mattress, your pillow, the sheets that you use, they can all have an effect. I kind of swear by going to a charity shop, and they're open now, and getting Egyptian cotton sheets because they're so nice and cool. But that's kind of a personal thing. But think about, is your bed comfortable? Is your pillow comfortable? They really are important. What's the temperature in the room? Is it dark enough? In the summer, blackout blinds are brilliant. All these things All these things are really important in the bedroom. And this is something that I found for my husband. Oh, we've got some pillow recommendations here. Brilliant. I discovered with my husband that I could tell when he was coming up towards waking. And if I stuck my hand on him like that, or if I could ideally get the cat to sleep on him here, he would sleep all the way through the night. And it was because it was this pressure that was important to the, I can never pronounce it, proprioception, which is a feedback saying, I'm here. If you watch teenage lads in particular, their legs are often jiggling up and down like this. And it's because it's saying to the body, I'm here, I'm here. This is where I am. I'm getting constant feedback. And deep pressure here is really grounding and calming and soothing. So a lot of families use weighted blankets to give that feeling. A weighted blanket needs to be, you need professional advice on the right weight and the right size. And they can be very, very expensive. What I've got just on his half of the bed is a really heavy blanket, a knitted blanket, because it's the weight of it. And that just keeps him grounded and down and steady. Sometimes we find, especially with children, we say don't go to expensive or weighted blanket. Try putting a double sheet over the duvet and tucking it in, a bit like swaddling the little ones, so that they get this feeling of being held. And for a lot of people, that really does help, that extra weight. I think we're so used, our continental quilts, duvet covers are pretty new, really, probably about the last 40 years. And I think before that, our ancestral history is of lying underneath really heavy things. And the duvet is really nice and warm, but it doesn't give you that feeling of being held and being safe. So for a lot of people, a heavy blanket over the top can really make a difference to that security when you're in bed, and just keep you almost down. Oh yeah, you've got a weighted blanket. Yeah, and it helps.
Yeah. I've got a 6 kilo weighted blanket that I sleep under, and it was an adjustment, particularly because I'm hypermobile, so moving under it at night initially was uncomfortable. But now if I travel and don't take it, I really notice that I don't have that weight, particularly for me, on my stomach and my legs. I really like that weight. It's really soothing for me to have that weight. It's super weird not having it now.
Yes. Is that because, why haven't you got it now?
No, I mean, if I don't have it now,
oh, I see.
Then it's weird.
Yeah. Oh, professional advice on weighted blankets. Physiotherapist. Have a chat to them, or there are websites. I'd go to the NHS. Always go to the NHS website first. Check that it is NHS, because a lot of them are ones that just sell them. But you need one that I think is, there is an equation you can work out the weight of the blanket in relation to your weight. And it doesn't refer to adults, but for children, they have to be able to throw it off, because there was a child who suffocated under one. So, but I'd experiment with a knitted blanket, or the old, just old blankets. You know, I've got a Whitney blanket, original and best. You never get cold toes with one across your chest. Try one of those before you go down the weighted blanket. Try something else to see if that works, because it does help ground you. Diet is also important. You don't want to be having sweet, sugary things before you go to bed, because they will give you an energy rush. The wise wife tale of a hot milk drink before you go to bed is good. Make sure it isn't hot chocolate, because that's got sugar in it. I find if I go to bed and I wake up in the night and I think, this is it, I've had it, I'm not going to go to sleep, I'll get up and I'll have a bowl of porridge, because it's slow release. The oats are slow release. Allegedly, if I have it in the morning, half an hour later I could eat a bacon sandwich. And the warm milk helps aid digestion. Bananas are really good because they aid the release of melatonin. I think there are only 3 things that I can think of the top of my head that have natural melatonin in. One is elk, not so readily available, cherries, dark cherries, and walnuts, but be careful because you can be allergic to nuts. You can buy concentrated cherry juice, it's really expensive. That is supposed to aid melatonin. Michael Mosley, trust me, I'm a doctor, did some research on people eating kiwi fruit before they went to bed, and that seemed to help the release of melatonin, as did fresh pineapple. But pineapple can be a bit acidic, so watch it on your teeth before you go to bed. So basically, you don't want to be going to bed on a heavy meal. If you have, this is a bit of a wives' tale about eating cheese and it giving you nightmares. That's because cheese can be a bit heavy to digest. But a small piece of cheese on a cracker before you go to bed isn't going to be hard to digest. And dairy products, if you can have them, do help with the release of melatonin. Well, it releases an amino acid called tryptophan, which is necessary to release melatonin. So dairy products are really good for that. Milk, yogurts, natural yogurts, a lot of fruit yogurts have got sugar in them, cottage cheese, porridge, bananas, anything like that for midnight snacks. It's really looking at routine, diet, exercise, your bedroom temperature, and using light and dark, and relaxation before you go to bed, a wind down time before you go to bed, so that ideally you're not going to bed and then all the worries of the world come into your mind. So that's why the yoga Nidra is brilliant for that. We are 11 o'clock. I do natter on. Let's have a look at sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is, well, it's quite often the typical person, when I was taught who had sleep apnea, I was told was a lorry driver, which I thought was a bit strange. But what happens is when you go to sleep, your body relaxes. And if you are overweight at all, when you relax, there is more weight pressing down on your neck. And because you've relaxed, the space for the air to get through gets smaller and smaller. And the heart has to work harder to get the air and oxygen through to your lungs. And what can happen is that it shuts down. Sometimes your brain will say, I've forgotten to breathe. Sometimes it will be that the airspace is so small you can't get the air through. If you are a sleeper or your partner is a gasper and you lie there thinking, are you going to breathe? Are you going to breathe? And they go, that may be a sign that they have sleep apnea. If they wake up, and this may or may not be, but it's an indication, it can be an indication of very dry and with a headache, that also may be a sign that they've been gasping and haven't got the air through. if you think this might be the case, then I really strongly recommend you record what's happening during the night and get your GP to have a look. I worked with a sleep counsellor whose husband had a heart attack because of his sleep apnea. It's such a strain on the heart. He has a CPAP, constant air pressure mask. I think nowadays you can get tubes that go into your nose. You have sleep apnea. And it is, you know, it's something that you need to really think about. Did they recommend sleeping on your back or anything, or your side?
It's quite a recent development. Mine's not weight related. It's because I'm hypermobile, and so my airway's really stretchy and lax, and so it closes. Mine was picked up because I suddenly started snoring. I never snored unless I had a cold, never snored in my life, and then one day started snoring awfully, and so that was picked up as an issue. It didn't really matter where, like, how I slept, nothing made it better. So yeah, I now have actually now they don't tend to have CPAP machines where it's a constant pressure. They have APAP, where it instead of it being one level of pressure all night, it has a lower level of standard pressure, and it responds. So it can tell when your throat is closing, and it raises the level of pressure just while you need it. And then as your body starts to say, oh, I'm doing something wrong, I need to open my throat again, it then lowers it back down. So it's much more comfortable.
Oh, that's good.
And much easier to get used to. It's less like sticking your head out of the car window at 70 miles an hour. So yeah, I've only been using that machine since February, and it's made a really big difference actually, and of course to my husband's sleep as well, because he was being woken up by my terrible snoring.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a whole journey as well.
Oh, crikey, yeah, I imagine it has. And my friend's got one, and she says every now and again, he's got the old mask, the mask comes away, and she says, the noise is awful, the hissing noise when it comes. Yeah, so do follow up on any snoring, any sleep apnea, because it can be helped, and it is a serious condition. Restless leg syndrome, that can be, it's where you get the urge to just move and wriggle your legs throughout the night. It can be a sign of low iron levels, so bear that in mind. And it can also be a sign of low, begins with magnesium levels. It can, so magnesium is really important for sleep as well. It helps control the body's stress release. And insomnia can also be a sign of magnesium deficiency. And I've just got a note here of where you can find magnesium. It's dark leafy greens, seeds and nuts, squash, broccoli, legumes, dairy products, meat, unprocessed whole grains, chocolate and coffee. But chocolate and coffee you don't want before you go to bed, so bear those in mind. Because I had a look at my insomnia leaflet, which I will email out to you, so you can pass it on to other people, because insomnia is often a common symptom of magnesium deficiency, because magnesium plays a role in supporting deep sleep by maintaining healthy levels of GABA, a neurotransmitter that promotes sleep. So quite a lot of sleep practitioners I've come across recommend people considering taking magnesium, and I understand you can get it as a spray now as well to aid pain. Yeah, Karen takes it. And always consult your doctor before taking supplements, especially if you're on medication. Okay, how are we doing? Any questions? Where are we going? We've got... Oh, it hasn't helped. No, okay. It might be over time. These things can take quite some time. Especially with you, Karen, because you've not been sleeping for decades. I'd give everything absolute months and months and months to kick in. One of the questions was when to talk to your GP. What I'd say is, from my experience, the GPs will say, what have you tried? So go in with, I've tried, you know, make a list of all the things that you've tried and how long you've tried them for. What I will do, actually, I'll make a note of it. I'll just write here. I will send Ellie a copy of our sleep diary. You can, ours is quite, actually I won't, because ours is specifically for children. What I'd recommend is you go online and have a look at sleep diaries, because you'll find one. There are loads out there. Keep a sleep diary for 2 weeks. Then you can go in and show your GP exactly what happens and say what you have done and how long you've done it for. Because we get so many families who ask to be referred to paediatricians, and the paediatricians won't see them until they've tried certain things, you know, like the magnesium, the weighted blanket, looking at sleep hygiene. So go in with your evidence that you have tried all these things. You've got your 2-week sleep diary so they can see exactly what happens. And then you're in a better position to ask for more help and support. Painsomnia was one of the questions as well. Let's see, I had a look at this as well. A lot of people who get painsomnia tend to have rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia in particular. It's where chronic pain disrupts your sleep. And of course, as we've discovered, restorative sleep is really important for your health. So look at the things that we've been talking about for sleep hygiene. Exercise. It might be worth looking at CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy treatment, to help. In a way, you want as much help and support for your pain, which is a separate element to sleep. So if you can go down the line of researching help for your pain, that will help travel alongside the sleep hygiene stuff that you put in place. You might find, looking at it, it said there were 8 tips from the American Sleep Society I looked at. A lot of them we've covered. One was better mattress and pillow, cool bedroom, and we've said 16 to 18 degrees. Hot and cold therapy, warm bath or cold compress. Stick to your sleep schedule. Don't lie in bed for more than 15 to 20 minutes. Get up, wash your face in cold water, and that's all about dropping your temperature again. Do some deep breathing exercises, and those you'll find particularly helpful on the Yoga Nidra sleep sites. Have a bowl of porridge. Keep your light levels low. So what this is really is the insomnia advice. Don't lie in bed for more than 20, 15 minutes. Get up, keep the low levels low, the light levels go downstairs, do something mindful, not worrying, and then go back to bed again using your sleep association, which might be your relaxation app. Avoid overstimulation. Thank you, cup of tea. Avoid overstimulation, no coffee or scary films. Exercise during the day. and bear in mind that cortisol is an anti-inflammatory hormone. And because cortisol is released in the morning by our bodies naturally, you may find that in the evening you've got less levels of cortisol in your body, so you may experience more pain in the evening. So that's all something to bear in mind when you're managing your pain levels. I think as I've got a cup of tea, I need to stop for a minute and you need to ask me some questions, please. Have you got any? Okay, don't worry. Let's have a quick slurp.
I will just say, in case anyone's not on the chat, that just to say again that we are running a Sunday night yoga Nidra class. We timed it so it's at 9:15 on a Sunday night, 9:15 to 9:45. So the idea is that you can join the class in bed in your pajamas. If you want to, you can like clean your teeth, get yourself ready for bed, and then, you know, seamlessly glide into sleep if you'd like. It is like we are aiming it at improving sleep specifically, particularly in the initial weeks. This week is the first week that we're doing it. In the chat, I've put the code that you can use to get a free class if you want to try it. So if you want to give Yoga Nidra a try, that Sunday evening class might be a really nice way of trying it as a you know, see if it helps your sleep at all.
I mean, I think the Yoga Nidra is absolutely, utterly superb. It's I really would recommend it and try it for several months, because changing your sleep is like changing a tanker. When I say a tanker, a shipping tanker, one of these huge tankers where to turn it round takes a long time. So whatever you're doing, give several months to it. Make sure that your bedroom's dark, quiet and cool. I'm just going to go through some pointers here. Stick to a regular sleep schedule. Turn off all screens at least an hour before bed. When we've got avoid naps, I'm not going to say avoid naps, because I think if you're not sleeping during the night, you've got to catch up on your nap during the day. As I said at the beginning, think about how long your nap is for. If you need to take a nap, I'd say, it says limit it on our sleep insomnia leaflet that I'll email to Ali. It says limit to 30 minutes before 3 o'clock. But I'd say before 5 o'clock. It gives you a little bit more leeway. And learn to associate your bed with sleeping, not sleeplessness. So if you lie there for a while too long, get up and go through the bedtime routine. Or if you don't want to get up, like in the winter when it's really going to be cold, just lie there and think, at least I'm resting, and try listening to a sleep app, because they really are so good at helping. Move bedroom clocks out of the way. I've not persuaded my husband to do it, because he'll wake up and he'll put the clock on, which he has got a light to it, which isn't good. And then he'll think, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been awake for so long and I've got so long before I can get up in the morning. And immediately his brain is going round and round. So if you can, get rid of the clocks. If you don't want to try the relaxation apps, you can distract your brain by other techniques, and it's really all about distracting your brain so that it isn't chuntering along worrying lines that I'm not sleeping. What I tend to do is I try and think about a walk that I'm going on. So I think about what time of year it's going to be, what I'm going to wear. most importantly for me, what food is going to be in the picnic. And then I plan my route and I try to picture the route as I go along. So I'm keeping my brain occupied by something that is, for me, quite relaxing. My husband does it by trying to think of words, word games, spelling words, like how many words can I think of that begin with RH, which would drive me up the wall, but he finds it relaxing. And this comes under stay out of your head. It says try not to stress over your inability to fall back to sleep, because that stress only encourages your body to stay awake. Focus on the feelings on your body or practice breathing exercises. Take a breath in and then breathe out while saying or thinking the word ah. And you can count your breathing as well. Quite often if you count 5 in and 5 out, and 5 in and 5 out. That often helps distract your brain from the worrying. And you can promote relaxation by, allegedly, it may work for some people, I think it does, rubbing your ears. So squeezing your ears along the acupuncture points. And it says rolling your eyes, but I think that's, you close your eyes and then you slowly roll them upwards a few times. But for me, it made me feel dizzy, so it didn't work, but it's something to try. I'm just looking at my watch thinking, I'll do the progressive muscle relaxation in a minute. What I'd say is check your medication as well, because a lot of medication can have side effects which affect your sleep. And at least if you know that, then it might take a bit of pressure off you thinking, well, it's me who can't sleep. Well, actually, it isn't. It's not helped by the medication that you're taking. While I think of it, valerian it's a very mild herb with a sedative effect, and that can help you sleep better. But the quality of valerian supplements really does vary widely. So I'd go to somewhere reputable if you're looking at valerian. And I think you can get tea with valerian. If you have a busy mind, passion flower tea as well can help settle the mind. These are all things you'll probably find that there isn't one thing that cracks it, but lots of little things just help on top of each other, help bit by bit, and give them time. And what I say is, it is just giving you time. The last bit we've got here is evidence shows that lifestyle and behavioural changes make the largest and most lasting differences when it comes to insomnia. If you are suffering chronic health, then that's really difficult to do. So be kind to yourself, give yourself time. And if you're not sleeping, if you can, just learn to relax, because even if you're in a relaxed state during the night, it's going to be so much better for you than being in a tense, worried state. I think I've covered most of the questions. And what I will do is I will email Ellie, the insomnia leaflet. Recommend you get a sleep diary off the internet. There are all sorts of them. And I will also email Ellie our Being a Sleep Detective for adults. And it summarises what we've said in this workshop. And you can go through it bit by bit and take what relates to you and what doesn't. if you're happy now, we'll have a go at a progressive muscle relaxation script. And then we will, let's see if I can get the music to work. And then that might, while you're doing that, although you shouldn't be thinking about questions, you might think, oh yes, I must ask that last question.
We have Karen's question from earlier to cover still.
Oh gosh, yes, well done. Yeah, the restrictive sleep. Restrictive sleep is also called paradoxical sleep. And what it is, it limits the amount of time you spend in bed. So if you're lying in bed and you're only having 4.5 hours sleep, but you're in bed for 6, 7, 8, then that isn't associating bed with sleep. So what you can do, and I don't know about your chronic illness, you need to really bear that in mind before you try restrictive sleep therapy. You might want to discuss it with your GP. What you do is you work backwards in a way. You think, okay, I'm going to sleep for, let's say, hopefully 5 hours. I want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You work backwards thinking, well, it may take me half an hour to go to sleep. I'll go to bed at 12 o'clock so that I'm really exhausted. And then you sleep for your 5 hours. And then, because allowing the time for you to fall asleep, you're getting up at the time you want. The idea is it doesn't associate bed with sleeplessness. But I'd really I'd check to a health professional before you try it, because you're going to be so tired. I don't know how it's going to affect your health on that one. What do you think, Karen? Is it going to be a bit too difficult?
Well, I mean, sometimes I will go to bed after midnight. Sometimes it's quite a lot later than that even. It's the getting up in the morning bit that would slay me, and I'd find challenging, because by that time I'm just so tired. I just want to, and I often get up with the intention, as you said earlier, of going out for a walk, and then if I have gone back to sleep, my brain is so foggy, I really don't want to get up and do anything. And I'm, sort of, I don't know what, yeah, I'm just sort of thick-headed until lunchtime.
So if you were to go to sleep at 12 or 1 o'clock, would you sleep longer, do you think?
The only time I've very occasionally managed to do that is if I've got into bed at 9 o'clock, and I might, I might sleep a little bit longer, but I can't guarantee that. But if I then had to get up at, what would it be, 3 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't be very happy about that either. I will think about it, and maybe if I just sort of thought, okay, well, 12 till 6, and got out of bed regardless.
I don't think you have to get up at 6. If you're still tired and you can go back to sleep, then stay in bed.
Yeah.
The idea is that you're not going to bed at, say, 10, 11 o'clock at night and lying there for 3 hours until you fall asleep.
Yes. Yeah.
You go to bed when you know you're going to fall asleep,
right,
and then you sleep till you wake up. And then if that works, then you move that clock in 15-minute gaps. I'd say 15 minutes a month for you. So my hands are the clock. So you're going to bed at 12 and you're sleeping through, we hope, because you are utterly, utterly exhausted, and you're sleeping through till 6, we hope. Once you've done that for a while, so that you're not lying there, you're not going to bed at 10 and lying there for 2 hours and then you're falling asleep. You're going to bed at the time where you know you're so exhausted you go to sleep, and your brain gets used to going to bed and sleeping, as opposed to going to bed and being awake, sleeping.
Yeah.
Once your brain's got used to that, then you're moving that clock in 15 minutes. We go to bed 15 minutes earlier.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Over a
Yeah.
month, and then a month later, another 15 minutes. And then hopefully this time of waking up will be used to, you'll be used to sleep.
Stays the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't generally have problems falling asleep. It's the waking up after 4.5 hours. So I mean, I'd still I'd be getting up at 5, wouldn't I, if I did the 12 o'clock bedtime. But maybe just by being so tired, I might start sleeping longer.
Yeah, it's in a way, sometimes it can be a habit and an expectation, and this is what your body expects it to happen.
Yeah.
Have you tried a way to wait on you when you sleep?
No, in fact, I have been talking to somebody recently, and they suggested a weighted blanket. So I've got a few to look at. There's the one that I like, of course, is the most expensive one. The one that I like the look of is the most expensive, but I will I will go and look it up on the if you say that it might be on the NHS website as well, I'll go and have a look on there and see what they recommend too.
Yeah. Have you got a woolly blanket in the house or anything like that?
No, I mean, I just got a small flat and I haven't got room to store anything. So all I've got is what I've got, kind of thing. So I have a duvet. But I do actually, it's interesting. Now I've got the this hoodie thing on, but I've got like a fluffy bed top, just the sleeves and just down to the waist kind of thing. And that keeps me nice and warm. But maybe it is a little bit heavier, but I kick all my clothes off, my bed clothes off.
Yeah.
So
it will be
interesting.
That's what's waking you up. One of the things. I'm
not cold though. All right. So if I didn't wear my fluffy top and had the blanket with the weight instead, that's certainly worth experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will try to regularize my bedtime and see what happens.
So I think the thing is, it's so often, I mean, for you, it's pain as well, but so often it's up here, and you go to bed and you think, right, I'm not going to go to sleep. I know from experience that I'm not going to go to sleep, and you lie there and lie there and lie there, and you associate bed with not sleeping. And this is a hard way, but it's I'm going to bed, and you're so exhausted, you sleep, and over time you think, your body thinks, yes, bed, sleep.
Oh, that would be good. I mean, mine is more sort of I suppose if I'm thinking anything, it's thinking, okay, I'm going to wake up in whatever, rather than I'm not going to go to sleep, because I'll go to sleep generally, well, faster than I think I'm going to go to sleep. But then I wake up before I've had enough sleep. I want some of Ellie's sleep.
And then it's waking up, and not going back to sleep. So maybe a sleep app playing through when you first go to sleep, and then it might be that's how you go to sleep, and you listen to it again at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I mean, I'm doing a training course at the moment, and part of that, for a whole year, I have to listen to this relaxation tape once a day. And so when I wake, if I know I'm not going to go straight back to sleep, I think, okay, go on, get it out, or get it on. So I listen to it, and usually I will wake up again later, but sometimes I'm just on this open thing. It's like my brain it's not necessarily thinking or worrying, but it's just like it isn't going to do. Even if I've done the relaxation, it's going to say, oh, blow you, I'm not.
Yes,
but luckily that's infrequent.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I find as we get older, I used to wake up and think, oh, am I awake? But now it's like, I'm awake. Right, start the day. And then don't get up and start the day. Try the relaxation. Try to learn you know, get into the idea of doing the yoga sleep, of doing a breathing exercise, a progressive muscle relaxation exercise, because that keeps your brain busy as well.
Yeah, I mean, my ideal would be to get, say, let's say 8 hours sleep, and then be full of life, ready to get out of bed and go and walk down by the river. We've got a beautiful river here, and I would love that. And then I come back and I'm ready to start my day.
Well, maybe even if you're fuggy, a cup of coffee and then go for a walk. Oh, naps, a cup of coffee. If you have coffee before a nap, and we normally say this, don't do this on a regular basis because your body can get used to it, but it might help now and again you do it. Coffee takes about 20 minutes for the caffeine to kick in. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a cup of coffee, then have a nap, and that caffeine will kick in and wake you up after about half an hour. But I wouldn't do it every day because your body's going to get used to it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't drink coffee because it gives me a migraine, but I suppose I could do the same with a piece of dark chocolate, couldn't I?
Oh yes, even nicer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, shall we try the relaxation? Let's see, is this working? Oh yes. How's this going? Can you hear it? Okay, so we're going to have a go at a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. And this is very similar to the sort of thing that you'll find on yoga nidra or sleep. And what we do normally is perhaps, I'm not sure if this is too loud, do it in bed or just before bedtime. If you're going to do it during the day, if you can, lie on your back on the floor. If your back aches, bend your knees, put your feet slightly wider than your hips, knees together, so that the weight of your leg is taken through your knees. And if you can, close your eyes. What can be very nice is to have, you can buy very lightly weighted eye masks to put on during the day. So this is a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. It relaxes your mind and body by progressively tensing and relaxing muscle groups throughout your entire body. If you've got any pain or discomfort at any of the targeted muscle groups, admit that step. Throughout this exercise, you may visualize the muscles tensing and a wave of relaxation flowing over them as you release that tension. It's important that you keep breathing throughout the exercise. Allow your attention to focus only on your body. If you begin to notice your mind wandering, bring it back to the muscles you're working on. Feel comfortable, feel safe. We'll start. Take a deep breath through your abdomen. Hold for a few seconds. And exhale slowly. Again. As you breathe in, notice your stomach rising and your lungs filling with air. As you exhale, imagine the tension in your body being released and flowing out of your body. And again, inhale and exhale. Feel your body already relaxing. As we go through each step, remember to keep breathing. Now let's begin. Tighten the muscles in your forehead by raising your eyebrows as high as you can. Hold. and abruptly release, feeling that tension fall away. Now smile widely, feeling your mouth and cheeks tense. Hold and release. Appreciate the softness in your face. Now tighten your eye muscles by squinting your eyelids tightly shut. Release. Gently pull your head back as if to look at the ceiling. Hold and release. Feel the tension melting away. Feel the weight of your relaxed head and neck sink down. Breathing in and out. In and out. Letting the stress go with every out breath. Now tightly, but without straining, clench your fists and hold this position until I say stop. Release. Now flex your biceps and feel the build up of that tension. You may even visualize that muscle tightening. Hold it and release, breathing out. Enjoy that feeling of limpness. Breathing in and out, stress going out. Now tighten your biceps. Feel that build-up of tension. You might even feel the muscle tightening. Hold and release. Now lift your shoulders up as if they could touch your ears. Hold and quickly release, feeling the heaviness of your shoulders. Tense your upper back by pulling your shoulders back, trying to make your shoulder blades touch together. Hold it. Release. Imagine warmth releasing through your back and your shoulders and out, down through your arms and fingertips. If you can, tighten your chest by taking a deep breath in. Hold as long as you can and exhale slowly, blowing out all the tension. Take your awareness down to your toes, curl them underneath you, tighter, and release. If you can, flex your feet and your calves so you can feel them tighten up, and release. Breathing in and out, And with every out breath, the stress is going out of your body. Now your thighs, big muscle here. Tighten and relax and release. Now we're going to tighten the whole body if we can. Tighten your arms, your legs, your stomach. And with an out breath, let it all go and release and relax. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the ground. And slowly, very slowly, bring your awareness back into the room. Hear the sounds around you. Wiggle your toes and your fingers. Take a deep breath in and out. And when you feel able, open your eyes. And if you're on your back, very, very slowly, roll over onto your left-hand side and lie there for a moment. When you feel able, sit up and join us again.